Well, this episode is basically how we decided to move to Italy. I've broken it up into maybe 8 to 10 different touch points or considerations. We're past the intro, and now we're into the second podcast and the second YouTube channel video. And this one is primarily about how we decided to make this move. Let me start by saying for over a couple of decades, 26 years, Lucia and I have been living more or less an urban lifestyle. I've been in this neighborhood since 1973, so you could do the math there. I love the neighborhood. It's vibrant. We have a balcony and a rear deck. On our balcony, we could look out and watch humanity go by. It's fun. There's neighborhood characters. It's like if you recall the Robert Crumb comics from the Underground comics. He did a lot of urban settings. That's what it's like here. We have some neighborhood people that are just better than any TV show. We may be a couple of them ourselves. Nevertheless, it's something we enjoy, being on a busy street, but things have changed, and I'll get into that as we move forward through this. Another aspect of living in the city is driving. You don't have to drive. You really don't. You can take a cab, Uber, a Lyft. Driving is something that you do if you have to really go somewhere that either the aforementioned travel options don't work or public transportation doesn't suffice. But driving is something that you really kind of want to avoid here, and it is what it is. So our lifestyle is tied into the quality of life we've experienced here has just been phenomenal. Restaurants and cafes and little boutiques. I look out my window. I've got 3 or 4 restaurants. It's an amazing place to really thrive. However, things have changed. Now it's crime-ridden. There's vandals constantly, graffiti being sprayed on the facades of businesses and buildings. The road rage that I witnessed by sitting on my balcony. Very impatient people, quite different from when I first came here in the early 70s. And most of the people now are on their little AirPods. You can't talk to anybody, and if you do, you're like, who's this weirdo? So that's kind of affected the quality of life that we've embraced living here. Now this is all tied into the expenses. Where we're at, it has become like New York City. It is getting extremely expensive to live in this area. We rent. We've always rented. I'm not a handy guy. I'm not a home owner kind of guy. I've always rented. I like renting. I like what I get as a renter, but it's getting simply too expensive. Parking here costs as much as an apartment. As an apartment where we're moving to in Italy. A parking space here is just about at the same cost as an entire apartment in southern Italy. Restaurants have gone from getting a burger and fries and a beer for 10, 12 bucks to the burger itself is $17, $18. We went out recently. We had a $30 gift certificate. So we went to a favorite iconic restaurant in the area. I'm not going to mention the restaurant, but the bill was $43. That's without the tip. That was two burgers and fries, and that was it. Wow, that's heavy. Okay, now Chicago, the weather. This is an interesting aspect of our decision to move. I did some numbers. I'm kind of a spreadsheet fanatic. The average year-round temperature in Chicago, hold on, is 47 degrees. That's the average temperature, if you factor everything in, highs and lows, 47 degrees. In the south of Italy, in Calabria, the average is 68 degrees. That's a motivating factor for me. Plus, the snow. I mean, we have the lake effect here because we're less than a quarter mile from the lake. I could peek out and actually see a piece of the lake from my balcony. The shoveling is absurd. Since I have a parking space in the alley, the thing is when the streets come down, I'm sorry, when the snowplows come down the streets, they block the alleys because all that snow has to go somewhere and then try to get out of your alley. Alleys are not plowed. Alleys are simply not plowed. So owning a Fiat 500, you could imagine it's a bit of a challenge. And then if you do get out, do you want to come back to your parking space? Maybe you could find a place on the street and it's a lot easier. However, it's Chicago. Dibs! So you're liable to find plastic outdoor patio furniture, a couple of sawhorses and 2x4s, or even a couch. So dibs could put a big kibosh on finding a parking space on the street. Now, one of the big factors is family and friends. Both Lucia and I have very little family here in the Chicago area. And the ones that we do have, they're very busy with their own lives. They have children and grandchildren and possibly soon to have great-grandchildren. I can't believe I'm that old. Nonetheless, they're busy. They're busy with their own families. So Lucia and I really don't have anybody here. And our friends also have families. We love our friends and we love our family too. But we found that our family in southern Italy is a much more, again, this is tied into the whole culture, which I will get to here in a few steps. But I think it's okay for us to give a big hug and say goodbye to friends and family. Now, let's talk a little bit about the medical system. Medical issues, health care. It's becoming socialized here in the U.S. We're going to soon be like Italy and France and Canada. This is another consideration we've had. If we're going to stay here and be in socialized medicine, maybe the move is kind of lateral. Plus some things that are happening here with, for lack of a better description, affirmative action in the healthcare world, meaning if you're in line for surgery, a lung transplant, chemotherapy, you may get kind of leapfrogged by somebody who is disadvantaged. It is what it is. I don't make the rules. I just want to keep breathing. And a third thing that I've seen, not only in the healthcare world and medical treatment, is we're seeing in this country ageism. It's kind of like the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk about how older citizens, senior citizens, are kind of marginalized. We used to be the people that taught the younger people how to do everything. Now the younger people teach us. I mean, let's face it, we can't even set the clock on our, do we still have VCRs? We can't deal with electronics. They're brought up in them. We're still very analog. So anyway, back to the medical thing. Time to move on with that because it's going to be a parallel move. And people say, well, the healthcare here in the U.S. is phenomenal. It's good. It's very good. It is tremendous. Our innovations are spectacular. But I believe healthcare across the board in other countries is pretty darn good too. It's my opinion. I've done a lot of research on this, so take it for what it is. The next issue is our career, which is filmmaking, making movies, making documentaries. I could go on, this could be a whole nother episode, but it's become very difficult here because you are incentivized to change your art. Let me explain that, and I'll be brief. You are incentivized, you're given money by certain guilds and unions to cast people, to hire people, not on merit, but on other issues, other traits that fall under the big umbrella of diversity, which is fine. But if it affects your story, I have a problem with that. And if you're not hiring the best people on your crew also, I want to hire the best people. I don't care what color they are. I've always been colorblind. I want the best person. We spend a lot of time, Lucia and I, watching a streaming channel called MHZ, like megahertz, MHZ Choice. And this is programming from all over the world. Yes, it's subtitled. You have to embrace the subtitles. But the fact is that this programming is so pure, so honest. The storytelling is pure and honest. You don't have forced diversity. You don't have stories that say, well, I have to check all the boxes. So we've determined that it may be just a bit easier for what we want to do as filmmakers to work in Italy. Now, this is tying into the kind of cultural aspect of Italy. They're very open people, as are we. We're very open. We hug, we kiss, we touch people when we talk. We're demonstrative when we express ourselves. You can't do that here. And that could be considered a microaggression. And how do you hold that back when that's who you are? It's, again, it plays into our decision to be around people who are like us, who just like to just physically express themselves. Italians have something in the early evening called the passeggiata, literally the walk. And before dinner, which is usually later in the evening, 7:30, 8 o'clock is the beginning of dinner, they take a walk. They hold hands, they go with their family, they look and do window shopping, they do a few errands, and this is something that we simply cannot do here for a couple of reasons. One, the crime, we touched on that earlier. Next is people don't talk to each other. People don't stop. You don't hug each other. It's just a completely different mindset when it comes to what has happened here in our culture in terms of interaction with other humans and what takes place in other cultures. The next point I want to make is leisure, particularly my leisure. I don't want to speak for Lucia, but I love sailing. I became a sailor about 12 years ago. I've sailed on the lake. I handle a sloop rigged, usually a 32 to 42 footer. I enjoy it. It's very relaxing. It's kind of like filmmaking. You never know which way the wind's going to blow. But there's no more rentals here. I can't rent a boat here in Chicago. The city essentially put the rental company out of business due to a lot of things that are just the city of Chicago. But you can no longer rent a boat here. In Italy, I could rent a boat. In fact, Italy is so inexpensive, I could buy a boat. I don't know if I want to do that, but I could enjoy my sailing. I do enjoy fishing. It's one of my greatest pastimes is to cast a line into the water and pull up a fresh fish, and if it's sport fishing, I throw it back. If it's something that's good, we're going to have a nice fish dinner that night. I like motorcycling. Motorcycling here in Chicago, very dangerous. Plus, your bike, again, where you're going to park it, that somebody's not going to back into it and knock it over. And, we both enjoy walking, taking long walks. That kind of goes back to the passeggiata that I mentioned a few minutes ago. So that's a big part of the leisure aspect, if you will, of our move. Community, being a citizen. Chicago, and I have to say Illinois, and generally a large part of our country, it's become a nanny state. There's no flexibility. There's no, just you're smoking, you shouldn't be smoking. That's all right, smoke. There's no forgiveness. It's like everything is, I gotcha. I'm gonna nail you on Yelp. I'm gonna go on Nextdoor and really be mad at you because your dog was off the leash. It's just a scold. Every day somebody's scolding somebody for something. And even if you praise somebody, you'll find somebody to scold you because you praised the wrong person. That's not how I want to live. Is it going to change in Italy? Maybe not, but I hope so. I'm hoping that the culture that I embrace, and I've been going back to Italy for, over 30 years. I've really done my homework, and it's a type of community I want to be part of. It's very important. So again, playing back into why are we moving? This is part of why we're moving. The food. I can't say too much about the food. I think you all know Italian food is great. I think it was Neil Simon said everybody likes Italian food. I could concur with that. You can't get the ingredients, you can't get that type of food here in the U.S. You'll argue with me. You can't. You simply can't. Maybe in specialty stores you could find what you're looking for. The price, really, come on. We just enjoy good wine, good produce, good food. Again, all these things tie back into why, the reason, this is the decision we've made to move. So anyway, I hope you can continue to enjoy these little podcasts and YouTube videos that I'm doing, because by me talking this through, it's making my big move a lot easier. Thank you.